Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, attendees and audience members today. It's right on 1 o'clock Eastern time, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to the special event that we have planned for you today, and thanks so much for attending with us. I have the privilege of hosting this webinar today and introducing you to our event speaker. My name is Mike Alshouse, and I'm an account manager with Byteworks. For those that don't know us yet, Byteworks is an IT solutions company focused on solving problems that matter to you, and frankly are often complex problems many others cannot solve. We partner with industry leaders like HP Aruba to consult, design, and implement solutions. Today, I'm excited to bring you a subject matter expert in security. John Spiegel is a CTO with HPE Aruba with 25 years experience in cybersecurity. John is going to speak today about why you need a SASE framework, the benefits of zero trust, and what you'll gain from the Aruba Axis platform. So after John is done presenting today, you will be taken to a 4-question survey. This will help us understand how and if the content today was value add for you. We want to know if the content sparked any thoughts, ideas, or questions that you'd like to discuss with us. Our hope is this content will be thought-provoking and will help you navigate your own zero trust journey. John Spiegel, I want to direct attention over to you. And just to get us started here, John, help us out. Let us know, why is everyone talking so much about SASE right now? And why do organizations ultimately need it?
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me on your webinar. Really appreciate it. It's the industry's evolving rather rapidly. My background actually was not in security. I was actually a networky person. That's how I got my entry into IT. I liked watching the teams working on networks and said, hey, that looks interesting. Started down the path and ran wide area networks for a large global retailer here based out of the Pacific Northwest. So that's really my background, and that's where I started. And at the time, most of our applications lived within the 4 walls of the data center. That's where they resided. And all that was all well and good. And as well, the workforce, primarily, they came to the office. The company I worked for mandated everybody be in the office. Remote work was not favored. It was frowned upon, actually, and that's where we were. And then right around the 2010s, things started to change. We saw the emergence of cloud. SaaS applications like O365 started to make their arrival, Salesforce, so on and so forth. And applications started moving out of the data center. So the response really was, hey, let's secure it in the old way and build these firewalls all over between applications and out on the internet. And the challenge was just wasn't scalable. As well, on the networking side, our primary connectivity methods for wide area network were MPLS based, which is a private networking, again, heads back to the data center. So around 2014, 2015, we saw the emergence of a new technology, SD-WAN, really started to take off. And that really helped us to connect to these various islands of data now resident on the internet. The problem with that technology was it was really about connecting locations to a service. What it did not include was security. And security became a greater concern. We saw the rise of ransomware, the rise of malware, various security breaches. The company I worked at had a major breach due to insider activities. And again, that was due to the way we were wiring our network. So as a result, we saw in the rise of this notion of SASE. And really, what is SASE? It is a framework put out by an analyst organization, Gartner. Forrester has a similar one, which they call Zero Trust and Edge. And the whole concept is to bring networking and security together in a way that you don't have to compromise one for the other. So if we take a step back and we look at how we deploy applications, in the past, the network engineer, the security engineer was always presented with a dilemma. The CIO would walk in, say, hey, we're going to deploy X. Let's call it SAP. And the network engineer would say, okay, great, I can do that. Where's it going to be? How much bandwidth do you need? And oh, by the way, what do you prefer? Do you prefer security or do you prefer speed or performance? The CIO would always answer, we can't slow an application down. That's just worker productivity is very important. I don't need these calls about slow applications. So generally what would happen is that speed would be preferred. And that was a challenge because security was also needed to be part of the show. SASE looks to overcome that dilemma. And how does it do it? It essentially takes the network and security devices that previously were in a physical format, call it a VPN concentrator, an IDS system, an SSL decryptor, so on and so forth, a firewall, transforms them into software, and then distributes them out on the network edge in the form of what we call points of presence or POPs. The result is that because they're now no longer hardware, they're software, we can now deliver up those applications, not only with speed, but with security. And these POPs are distributed on a global manner. So they're all across the world. And effectively, that overcomes our dilemma. We get speed and security. And that's really fundamentally what SASE is. That's really why there's a lot of excitement about it, as well as the rise of the mobile workforce. We saw that happen in an incredible wave that happened with COVID, the pandemic. That necessitated a change also for VPNs as well, because VPNs in the past, they rerouted your traffic back to the data center. There wasn't a lot of inspection. That necessitated a change. So we're seeing really, in my opinion, a remake of how we do networking and security, particularly at the edge. And that's what's driving a lot of interest in SASE.
Yeah, that's really good, John. Thanks for sharing that. I want to go a little bit deeper into the second part of that question, because you answered the why is it a buzzword? Why are so many people talking about it? But help us a little bit more on why do organizations need it? What is it really driving for organizations?
First of all, it's driving greater speed and security for applications. So that's paramount. The second thing is, if you take a macro look at the security industry, there are a lot of products in that particular space. I was at a conference recently and one of the CTOs from another major networking vendor was presenting, and he put up an interesting stat. He said that the average enterprise company has over 76 different point products for security. That's a lot. And if we take another look even at the networking side of the industry as well, it's very possible that your networking footprint, you may have a vendor for your wireless network. You may have a different vendor for your LAN network. You probably have a different vendor for your data center network. Your firewall vendor is probably different than your standard networking vendor. SD-WAN as well. So we have this whole vendor landscape. And what we're seeing in the marketplace is that leadership is looking to consolidate the number of solutions they have in place. What's driving that? Obviously, macroeconomic conditions. But what's also driving it is this need for security as well. Complexity drives for security outcomes. And when you have 76 different point tools that don't align, they may not be, their APIs may not be working together, and you're lacking visibility, that's a poor outcome. So that is one of the main reasons that's driving this movement towards SASE, is because you can take point solutions like remote access VPN in the form of ZTNA. Secure Web Gateway can replace some of your firewalling. You can get SSL inspection out of that. CASB to manage your cloud assets, as well as DLP, and then on top of it, digital experience monitoring. So we can take what in the past were point solutions, bring them together in an elegant way, and present them to the customer. What they get are better security outcomes, because now it's no longer a series of point products. It's actually one platform. They get visibility, which is very important in security. They also get network access that is efficient and fast. So outcomes for the business are much better. On top of that, they're enabling the hybrid workforce. These workers that are no longer in the office or are in the office some of the days out of the week and others not. You need a good mechanism to support those. And VPN, as we've seen, is not one of those. So SASE is really one of these topics that leadership is talking about. They're leaning in. They see the benefits of, as well as the positive business outcomes.
Yeah, that's really good, John. Thank you for that. And our audience today, we have some folks from the education space. We've got some in the commercial world. They're interested in understanding the benefits of zero trust as well. So I want to throw the zero trust word and phrase in there because it's used quite a bit in the context of SASE. So can you speak on the benefits of the zero trust environment quickly for us?
Absolutely. So zero trust, the key thing here is that it's been a buzzword that's been bantered about now for close to 5 years or so. And the key thing to take away from it is it's not a product. Anyone that's selling you zero trust as a product, it is not that. It is a security strategy. And in fact, I would go even further than that, saying it's a business strategy to secure your business. The concept came out of several different groups. One of them, most notably, John Kindervag, published a series of papers as an analyst for Forrester back in about 2012, really calling out the industry and saying, hey, we need a new mechanism, especially with cloud, and we need to get over basically creating these zones of trusted and untrusted. He saw that as a poor way of doing security, as well as the Jericho group, which Paul Simmons was part of. And he saw that identity was the key piece for the future because businesses were going to become more distributed. Applications and services were going to become much more like we see today with SaaS and PaaS, and we don't own all the assets. So really, what is zero trust? It's a strategy to secure your business. And essentially what it's about is least privilege. I liken it even further to something we call at Access Security, now part of HPE, as adaptive trust. So when a user, a resource, maybe it's a third party, is asking for an application, maybe it's data, we put them through a series of checks. We want to verify that they actually have an identity. What is their identity? Can they access this data? Is it based on time of day? Basically going through a series of questions, asking them, should they have access to it? And on top of that as well, we want to check where they're coming from and what device are they coming from. Does the device have a certain patching level? Is it a corporate asset? Is it not a corporate asset? Does it meet the security requirements? Is it running a CrowdStrike software on it, so on and so forth? And all of this is based on business policy, as well as what type of data is it. But essentially what we're doing is we're removing that user, that device from the network, running them through a series of checks, and only allowing them to access really what they need to get done to do their job. And that's fundamentally what zero trust does for the business.
Okay, that's helpful. I wanted to connect that dot for the audience today. And where I'd like to go a little bit deeper next here, John, is talking about what can be gained from the Access Security platform. And really what I'd like to tee this up as for the audience is what type of outcomes does this platform drive? So let's think through some examples, both for education space, but also for commercial space. What type of outcomes does this platform really help with?
So Access Security was an acquisition that HPE Aruba did in March of this year. The company itself had its lineage as a startup, which came out of stealth right around 2019. And the idea there that our founders had was to basically take a look at the industry, understand what had been done well, where were the gaps within the current existing portfolio of vendors and products out on the market, and then also add in two key transitions that happened in IT. One of them was cloud, and the second one you mentioned earlier and we talked about is this concept of zero trust. They fundamentally brought it together, and Access is deployed as a cloud native product. So it doesn't live in a vendor-owned data center. We don't rack and stack equipment. we're essentially using the cloud in a similar way that Salesforce would. So we're basically building this security network fabric all across the globe. And what does that do for the business? It secures your applications. It's an application delivery mechanism with performance and also with security. And how does that help education or a supply chain type company? Because we were built post zero trust, that is our foundation. We start with this concept of zero trust network access. That's where we have built the product. Everything that we build on top of that product is a feature. So we look at technologies like a SWIG, DLP, CASB, digital experience monitoring. Those are all features built on top of this zero trust network access foundation. Now, in terms of outcomes for customers, one of them that I can reference is Procter & Gamble. Their challenge was third parties. They work with a lot of them. They also work with a lot of contractors. And given the nature of their company, their PII is absolutely critical, as well as the ingredients and the chemicals that they're working on for their products. So they need to make sure that data is secure. But they also have a large number of third parties, a large number of contractors they have to work with. And as you well know, working with those types of organizations and groups, you always don't know what device they have. So in the past, what the company was doing was they were sending out laptops to make sure that they had the security in place and they could control access to their network. That became very expensive, but also very time consuming, because the turn time to add a new contractor, to add a new third party was in the order of 24 days. On top of that, very expensive. So what Access Security did is they worked with them and came up with an agentless solution. No need for to send a laptop out. The turn time became much more rapid, and the other party could use a BYOD style scenario to gain access. And it was done in a secure way, never allowing them on the network, only giving them access to the resources, the data, the applications that they needed. The result for Procter & Gamble was turn time went from 24 days down to 24 hours to onboard a new contractor or a third party, as well as significant savings. They're saving over $10 million a year right now, just in the implementation that they have today. Great outcome for them, greater security, lower costs. And that's really what SASE is about. In terms of an education group, that's another great example. Agentless solution for educational scenario is excellent because you're keeping people off the network. And that's really what you don't want to do, is you don't want to add a student or a third party, call it a professor, teacher, or even somebody doing updates to his systems. You never want to put them on the network. And with an agentless solution, we can do that. One of the unique advantages of our solution is that we support multiple protocols. So it's not just about SSL or HTTP. We can do SSH, RDP, VNC, GET. We can also do database as well, and we're working on file access. So very powerful platform.
Excellent. That's helpful, John. And in our audience today, we've got a range of some larger organizations, some medium-sized, even some to the smaller scale. Can you talk a little bit about which sized organization is optimal for zero trust, for SASE, for access? Is there an optimal spot? Does it span that whole range of small, medium, large, or is there more of a sweet spot?
I don't want to hit the depends answer there, but it's really about where a company is on their journey. Are they SaaS based? Are they moving more toward the cloud? Or are they primarily on-prem and not making a move to these next generation applications? We see companies that are in the middle there, as well as companies that have a remote workforce. That's really where the sweet spot is. So if you are making that transition from application transformation from your legacy to cloud, that's a great way, because what we can do is we can basically give your users, your customers, essentially one interface to work from. They don't have to think about, oh, I got a VPN to get to that application, and oh, that's on the cloud, and now I need to turn off VPN. It just works either way. And as you start to move those applications from on-prem to the cloud, again, the system just adapts to that with the security already built in. So That's really where we have a sweet spot, as well as enabling the hybrid workforce. I think we can all agree that the days of VPN, of using IPsec VPNs for remote access, really need to come to an end. They slow productivity down, they slow applications down, they represent a risk to your network. Those open IPsec inbound rules that you have to put on your firewall, those are like spotlights to the bad actors. They see it, they know how to attack it, and they know that's an opportunity for them to get into your network. With ZTNA, with a solution like Access, we create basically an outbound connection to our cloud. And where our cloud is, that's really becomes the epicenter of where connectivity starts to happen. And we broker that access in a secure way. It's really about where you are in your journey. So if you do have the hybrid workforce, you're working on that, or you have a largely remote workforce and you're looking to transition away from VPN, great opportunity. As well as making that transition, or you're in the middle stages of where you are in your application transformation journey. That's really where we're seeing our best success.
Okay, that's helpful, John. Thanks for sharing. And we're about 5-6 minutes left in our time here. And for the folks that are on the phone, for our attendees, I want to give them a chance to ask any questions directly to you, if there are any. Our host is going to unmute the audience now. And if we have anything from the audience, I would love to hear it in our last couple of minutes here. And as our host does that, what I heard, John, in there that I think is really good, the Procter & Gamble example of the contractors and third parties. I have a lot of conversations with folks in the marketplace that are in that exact same boat. They constantly have folks on their network. Yes, they work together. Yes, they trust them. But in the spirit of zero trust, it's not something that they want to overextend trust with. And they want to make sure that they're segmented and restricted the right ways. That's a key point I wanted to make sure I echoed. That's the most prevalent use case that I can think of with all the conversations I'm having in the marketplace today. So that said, John, I'm going to open it up. If anybody wants to put a question out there, we have a couple minutes.
I'm going to add in, though, you mentioned the agentless support in third parties. We see that as almost a cheat code to get into zero trust, because it is such a high risk, because it is also a great avenue to reduce your costs and get off VPN and get off shipping laptops and all the configuration and back-end operational support that goes with it. We see that as like the way to get into SASE, the way to get into zero trust as a strategy. We've seen great success. That's generally how we start conversations is, hey, you've got third parties. What if we could help you out with that in a very elegant way, a very simple way, reduce your risk, reduce your costs, and also get you started on a zero trust journey. That's where we see a lot of great success.
Excellent. I think we're wrapped here. I think we've got a few quiet audience members, and that's completely okay for today. So, group, what we're going to do, once we exit the session here, you're going to see 4 questions pop up. So, quick survey questions, just to get a feel for what you'd like to talk about next and what hit the nail on the head for you, what was value add for you. Thanks so much for attending. John, you did mention you wanted to give a little plug about an upcoming event as well.
Oh, yeah. We've got lots of events coming up, primarily one that we have coming up real soon here. Check out LinkedIn, follow the Cloud Security Alliance, as well as the demo forum. We're doing an event. It's vendor neutral on SASE. It's essentially a 2-day event covering all aspects of SASE, all the different technologies that are associated with it, what the journey would look like, as well as a deep conversation around zero trust network access with the so-called father of zero trust network access. John Kinderbog will be part of that conversation. Should be out, I think, either last week of October or first week of November.
Perfect. And we'll share back out with the audience after the call. We'll give an exact date for that event if anybody wants to check it out. Okay, well, with that's a wrap. So thank you guys for attending, and please answer those questions for us. And we're looking forward to talking to you more on the topic. Thanks so much, John.
Thank you.